Hello and welcome to BMS Goes Broadway, a very special edition of the podcast because Brett and I actually got to sit down with Joey Contreras and talk to him about the making of his new musical, In Pieces. We get into everything from changes he's been asked to make to the show and why he decided not to make those changes, to how it feels being tied to such a big show like Off Campus, and then what's coming next for In Pieces. I care so deeply about this show and I've been following along on the journey for years and years of trying to get this show made, and I hope that you enjoy getting a deeper dive into In Pieces on this very special edition of BMS Goes Broadway.
But Joey Contreras, composer, creator of In Pieces, AB video had went viral. Got like 1.5 million people. How many people have watched it?
Oh, we're up to 2 million now.
2 million people. Watched In Pieces because she was obsessed with it, and she was telling and sharing it with everybody. She was like, you have to watch this, and made me watch it and was locked in immediately. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. It's not just AB who's watching it. I think I wrote it down, like 113 countries have seen it, 25,000 hours. When you hear that, what goes through your head? Like, holy shit.
I'm like, honestly, thank goodness is kind of what I'm thinking. So much work goes into this, and you just sort of hope and pray that people will care enough to listen or watch. And so to see how big of a net it is cast, and how many people have been enjoying it, not once, twice, but like multiple times, is honestly like, it definitely exceeded my expectations. But you're always hoping that people will care. But it's hard. It's really hard. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there.
I mean, I'm one of the people who've watched it a million times in the 2 weeks I had it rented. My younger sister is the same way. I think she told me the other day she's on her 8th rewatch, and she still cries every single time. It's so funny. But I've obviously been a massive fan of You and In Pieces for years now. I think the first thing I ever saw was Ohio. I saw a video of that on TikTok and I was like, what the heck is this? I'm obsessed with that. Found it on Spotify, found the entire album on Spotify, and then it's made it on my Spotify Wrapped, I think 2 or 3 years in a row. To be honest.
You know what? You're a real one. Thank you.
I really am. And for people that don't know, In Pieces is a musical, and it's a love story about the people that you don't end up with. And I think that's so interesting because when you think of like musicals, you think of, oh, happily ever after. And of course, we see them fall in love and we see the happy, but we also see the hurt and the self-discovery after. So I'm very curious why you decided to go that route with it.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people actually try to get me to change that over the years of development. There are many people that will say, you need to give them one couple. You need to give someone a happy ending.
Who are those people? Who are like people that would want that?
They are people I'm not listening to.
Really? Like other creators, like people like people who have influence, and like, hey, if you make it this way, is that like really people like have that insight?
Look, the beautiful thing is the more eyes and ears, the more opinions. And
yeah, true.
And so I'm grateful that people care enough to watch and listen and to have thoughts and feedback and responses. Like that is a beautiful thing to have. It's a privilege to have that. But you know, you also learn to see which feedback you want to listen to, which you don't, that won't serve you or serve the piece. And as soon as I landed on the show, the show's container being the love story about the people that you don't end up with, that to me unlocked the whole thing for me, because it's been a big journey in trying to figure out how to create this piece, because it's had a very unconventional journey, both in the way that it's been written and in the way that it's been presented and produced. And so and then within that as well, I think the real message of the musical is examining love and choice, and who stays with you, and who are you when you show up to those relationships, who are you because of those relationships, and how do they remain a part of you even if they aren't there with you intimately, romantically, or you know, like that.
You talked a lot about like this unconventional development of In Pieces, and just even what is conventional, and then what route are you taking that's so different?
Well, Brett, there typically a lot of the development of a show is kept behind closed doors. And so when it finally gets to the point where it has been written and rewritten and there have been readings and there have been a lot of, closed door internal development
And all the
happening,
changes that happen with a story. Yeah.
all of the changes, all of that. Um, Usually, it then will be presented to as after all of that work, and the people that will see it, the audiences will be seeing something that feels at its most polished, finished product. One people might say a show is never ever done. It's always a living, breathing thing, and that's true too. But in this case, the show really has been growing because of the interest and because of the fans. And when I originally was writing In Pieces, it was meant to be something completely different. My career started in releasing musical theater albums, which were basically, because I'm also a pop music boy. Like, I love being in the studio. I love making albums.
Did you
So
hear that I interviewed the Backstreet Boys?
I did hear that. There wasn't footage though, so I wasn't sure.
Exactly, exactly.
Um, but so the In Pieces began as basically jukebox musicalizing songs from my previous albums because I had fans that wanted me to essentially make that. And then once I did that, I kind of just immediately put it out there for performance groups, amateur theater companies to do what we call licensing, was licensing the show. And over the next couple of years, I was seeing all of these productions of a version of In Pieces, and learning what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, because actually I had never done a production of In Pieces. This all happened during COVID in 2020 and 2021 when I first kind of like released the rights and everything. So people were doing productions of In Pieces and I hadn't even done a production of In Pieces, but I was learning a lot from going to their productions and from seeing what I liked. And then a commercial producer started caught on about what I was doing, and In Pieces was starting to grow a fan base and everything. And he came on board, and he was like, "Well, what do you want to do with the show?" And I was like, "You know what? I think I want to go and like work on it and make it a book musical, and not just make it a collection of songs, but deepen these characters and really kind of fine tune this story." And he was like, I think the exact same thing. So then what we call In Pieces 2.0 has really been over the last 3-4 years, where we've been inviting everybody into the development, filming and putting out there readings and releasing music sort of as it's being written. I mean, anybody who's been listening to the Highlights album from the beginning will notice that what they saw on the stage concert, there's a lot of changes. And that's just because of the development process of working on the show and fine tuning everything.
Yeah, I rented the concert version that you did last year, and I did notice there was a song that was cut that wasn't in this most previous version, the Gray's solo song. And I thought that was so interesting. What is the process like when you finally decide to cut a song? And why was that one cut specifically?
That one in particular, I've been getting a lot of comments and DMs about. What's interesting about the removal of This Is Not Me currently is that if you listen to That's What I'm Good At, you can hear some of the musical motifs of This Is Not Me inside of that song. I knew that This Is Not Me was always going to be a chapter 2 Gray song. This now we're going into the development. For anybody that's seen it, they'll be able to follow along. This Is Not Me was a chapter 2 song for Gray. I knew I wanted to write a song for Gray in the beginning that really introduced the way that he compartmentalizes his personality, his emotions, his feelings, how he shows up to his friendships and everybody, and the pressures of all of that. The goal originally was to write that song. That's what I'm good at became in chapter 1, and then to see how it negatively can manifest through This Is Not Me in chapter 2. That's what I'm good at was really cooking And because it was cooking in such a positive way, I knew I wanted to reprise it a little bit because a reprise is always satisfying in a show. And when we did a table read and we had This Is Not Me originally was That's What I'm Good At reprise after Ohio that then went into This Is Not Me, it felt like it was unnecessary. It didn't feel, I felt like we understood what the conflict was for him. And one of the additional components of the show that I really want is that I want it to constantly feel like you're in like a visceral musical tornado, essentially. And you're kind of dropping in these moments, and then you're kind of whooshed back up, and you're dropped back into these other moments. And I felt like it was killing some of the momentum of the piece, and it was this kind of almost eventually as simple as that. Was I don't think we need this color, this moment for Gray. I think we have enough. We get it. But I've also been saying that I imagine a whole In Pieces universe, and that there can be spin-off 10-minute musicals, 20-minute musicals, vertical media, a whole bunch of
Interesting.
stuff. And I imagine that if we were to like kind of zoom into Gray's story, This Is Not Me could return in one of those spin-off shows.
How do you go through that process? Because even in the beginning, you could just tell, like, you introduce it, you're like, I already see things that I want to change. And you could just tell, even as you're talking through your process, is this something you wrestle with constantly? And do you have like a sounding board of people you trust? Or is it only you making these decisions?
I'm thinking about In Pieces basically every single day, and by proxy of that, my husband has been thinking about In Pieces every
Okay.
single day as well.
It's funny.
He's also my music supervisor and music director on the show, so he and I are always bouncing ideas back and forth, and and yeah, I mean now at this point, I'm so thrilled that people have gotten to see the show really on its feet and how I imagine it, because for so long it was an album, right? And so a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I love this show so much, but I have no idea what it's about, or I don't really know the context, but I love the show." And I'm like, and that's a very overwhelming and again a very privileged place to be, but also like you're like, but you don't, but I hope you still like it when you actually like see it with the context. Like that was always like a little bit in the back of my mind.
Do you worry
So
about that? Like the version that people are introduced to all the time, whether it's a book or a movie or anything, the first version that you see, you always compare it to. And for some reason, it can never live up to that hype. And so because you've let people into the process, normally the people don't, are you worried that this they're not going to love the final polished product? They're going to be like, it's too polished. I like the old version. I'm missing too many of the components I used to love. You worry about that?
I think that there's always going to be people that are going to be attached to whatever iteration that they see, and that's going to happen even if you're seeing Wicked and you have your favorite Elphaba. You're always going to have a response, and it's going to come to you at a certain point in your life. I already do feel a little bit of that. Competition with myself because of how much I love this staged concert version and how much I know a lot of people have responded to it and will probably forever be like, that was my Gray and Charlie, or that was my moment. And but I also look at it as in a way like sort of collectibles as well, or like your favorite Beatles song. You love the album version, you love the live version, you love, this demo here. So I think it's all a very interactive experience too.
Are you sitting there and are you able to watch the London version and enjoy the whole thing, or is your mind constantly turning up, oh, I'm changing this, oh, I'm going to change this, didn't like this?
I will admit that I had a lot of I had a lot of things in my mind that I thought I wanted to change, and now that so many people have had a lot of positive things to say about certain things, I now am wondering if I shouldn't change certain things.
Really? Can you give an
That is,
example of something you saw and you saw it from a different lens than the other people? Because sometimes I do think as creators, we see it. Sometimes I'll think something on the show was like a huge miss, and then listeners will come up to me and be like, oh my God, I love that. I'm like, you did? I thought it sucked. And I'm like, I can't understand why. Is there something that from the show that you're like, this is not going to make it, and now they've made you see it differently?
I think sometimes when you're so wrapped up in creating something, you are always trying to poke holes, always trying to find the problems, always trying to see like if things are landing. And when you're dialed in at that kind of way, it becomes hard to really step out and observe and see if it's actually landing, or you just know too much. So I always tell people that the final mixing process or mastering process or for an album and or the editing process of this live capture are some of the most unfun moments of creating because it is your job at that point to be like, okay, you're just looking at like, is the sync off? Is the mix good here? Is this line loud enough? And you're not able to really enjoy it. So that's sort of like a little bit of the process. So much as like you're just kind of thinking about that. But then you also are with writing a theater piece. You're always balancing how much needs to be said and how much doesn't need to be said. And sometimes you overwrite and sometimes you underwrite. And that's always kind of like dialing in on both sides of those things. So parts where I thought that maybe I needed to maybe potentially write a little bit more, I've gotten a lot of responses from people that have said that they picked up on certain things enough, whether that be in Peter and Sam's relationship, for example, and this is something I am actually still investigating, is the age difference between them and how does that
That's funny. I thought
play?
about that a lot during
Yeah,
the entire show. I kept doing her age. And when she's like 4 years, 7 months, I'm like, how old is she now? And then like when she's getting engaged, it was almost was like, I was like, where is she at? When did she get engaged? And how old is Peter now? That's so funny that I thought about those things too.
yeah,
And I
because
was
that
trying
is
to do the
such.
math a lot.
We'll provide calculators.
Yeah. So she started at
It-
32. They broke up, and then it was like 3 years later. So I'm like, is she 40 now?
yeah, she ends the show at 40.
40.
And
Okay. All right. At least my math was good.
he ends the show at 30. So there's a 10-year age
Okay.
difference between them. And when things are but the show covers 8 years, right? So the who you are at 22 is very different than who you are at 30, and a 22-year-old going into a relationship with a 32-year-old who are at very different points in their life. Sam does need to experience and learn things from Peter, and Peter does need to learn and experience things from Sam, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they are meant to be forever.
One of the things I felt like with you talked about the transparency of letting so many fans into how the show is created. I feel like you do a good job of that with Peter's character. Like I feel like one of the things we get to see from a polished Broadway show is the happily ever after or the amazing product. At the end, Peter's still struggling to make it on Broadway, still the manager. I love that you did that because I felt like at the end when I was watching it, I thought she's going to end up in a different direction. And Peter is going to be super successful on Broadway, and their success stories are what led him in different directions. But in reality, the story that's telling is they were just not meant for each other at that time. They're right for each other at that time, but not meant for each other at the end. I love that you did that with Peter's character because I think Broadway can be over romanticized, but it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Yeah, it is. And that to me for Peter is such an interesting component and that's also another kind of dial that I talk about when I'm talking about writing the piece, for example, because the show is Peter is dealing with his own career struggles, but the show isn't a full-on examination of the struggles of that. It is still about his struggles with himself and relationships, and the career is also a contributing factor to his sense of self and his validation of himself and all of those things. And it's little shades like that I feel are in the show and can be picked up and can be interpreted. And now I'm trying to figure out how much of that needs to be said, whether it be in a line here or there. There is a moment I'll just kind of share here that I'm considering. There's a scene after the whole like Love Wildly, and there's the dinner party with Charlie and Peter and Sam, and we have Sam's sort of internal monologue as she's sort of considering whether she's trying to impress Charlie. She's kind of thinking about her relationship with Peter, and Charlie is spiraling about what just happened between him and Gray. And we don't necessarily hear from Peter, and I think it would be interesting to hear a little bit from Peter's perspective and to hear just how he's feeling in that point, because he has been in this relationship for a couple of months at this point. How does he feel about is this becoming more a part of his identity than he wants it to be? He's so or what? Just I want to hear a little bit more from Peter there.
That's a great perspective I didn't even think of, because you just see him like just moving the cup, where he clearly just the differences of what the like little things in your relationships that are important to you. Clearly you showcase that, but we don't really actually hear what's going through Peter's mind.
Yeah, and that actually comes like that conversation comes out through conversations with the actor or with the director. So, I've had many conversations with the actor Antonio who played Peter, and he's been developing this role for a couple of years now. And yeah, that's through conversations with that, it was like kind of a realization there, like, oh, I do crave a little bit more just to kind of get him from point A to B to C and everything there. And then also just to kind of speak to the development of it, Get Up and Go was actually not a duet when we
Yes, I noticed that. Yeah.
but like it wasn't even a duet when we entered rehearsal day one in London.
Wow.
It became a duet in the room.
Wow.
So
Cool.
yeah.
So you bring up Antonio, and he's famously now on Off Campus. Have you seen Off Campus?
Of course I've seen it. Yes. I'm obsessed with it, just as is everybody else, and I'm really excited to see his journey, his arc.
Do you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing that people now see Peter as Logan? Like, I saw so many comments on like so many videos like Logan. I'm like, but like you don't see Logan, you see Peter. And do you think, like, do they have similarities? Do you think that it's a good thing that people like are introduced to it in a casual way?
I'm seeing a lot of edits of him
Yeah.
and I guess Grace, right? Grace.
Yes.
And
It's funny.
I'm also seeing in comments that there's a lot of similarities between Logan and Grace and Sam and Peter in just like certain little conversational things.
That's
so
funny.
I don't know. And there was also a moment I remember Antonio clocked it in the script. I think it was like even before he'd booked Off Campus, and like, but then in reading it again, I literally had the words Off Campus in the script.
Oh, really?
And I was like, I think we need to. That's now feeling so
Two on the nose.
so wink to the audience, and that's gonna red pen that one. We'll cross that out. Yeah, but it's been exciting, and I'm so glad too that like the off-campus fans are finding us through all of this, and kind of even in the opposite direction as well. And he's just one of the most sweet and talented people I know, and I've known him for almost 10 years now, which is insane.
Is any
Did
of
this
Yeah, go ahead, Anna.
did the stars kind of align with
Hmm.
Off Campus coming out at kind of the same time that the In Pieces stage concert came out? And so it was kind of like if you found one, you found the other, or was that purposeful?
It actually was not purposeful.
Really?
We just took a lot longer on the edit, but we knew we wanted to get it out. Like if we were able to edit it faster, it would have been out probably within the first 2 weeks of it, of the concerts. But then it just took a lot longer. So
I was wondering if it was calculated. I was like, because this looks perfect, like a perfect alignment. So I was wondering if it was calculated or if it's just meant to be and serendipitous at that same time.
I think it was serendipitous, and I'm very grateful. Yeah.
The first song, I think, coming out the gate, fork in the road, and you just have this concept that like goes throughout the whole, I think, show. Do you feel like any of the characters could have made it if they would have met at different times? You talk about the age gap of being 22 and being a completely different person. Do you think if Sam and Peter meet each other and they're older, or Gray understands who he is better, do you think Gray and Charlie make it? Do you think Peter and Sam, does anyone make it if they just meet at different times?
That's for your imagination.
Sure, I think but do you? I think everyone has an opinion. For me, I think no. So I'll go first. I think no. I think if you are meant to be with someone you meant to be, I over romanticize love all the time. I believe in soulmates. I have a controversial opinion. People that you only love one time, like soul mate love, that real love exists. And so if you're meant to be, it doesn't matter the timing. I'm with my high school sweetheart. We made it through every piece of each other and every version of each other because we were meant to be. I don't think timing should play a role. So I don't think it makes a difference. But I was curious if you thought it made a difference.
Well, I love that story. I love your hearing your story. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I think I might have a different take.
Okay.
And I think that they were soulmates at that time for each other, and that I think that you can, similar to the phrase where, met the right person at the wrong time or the wrong person at the right time. I think that's sort of a little bit of what it is examining. And there's a lyric that says, "Every time I close my eyes, I think of the fork in the road. Travel by the ones that I let go for the better. Every night I battle life, decide if left was the right way, right left me lonely. Will I ever know? I guess I'll never know." And so that's why I think there's this like bittersweet recall for all of these characters that that these people in their lives mean for them. As I've gotten older, I will reflect on people that were such a big part of my life for a chapter in time, and then they suddenly are no longer in my life. They sort of crossfade out, they disappeared. Maybe there's not even a huge fight or any sort of real sign of an end point, but they just no longer are in my immediate life. But I still will reflect on them, and it'll bring back a wave of emotions. And I think that that is kind of what happened. I don't think that River and Alex ever meet up for that lunch. I think
Yeah.
they see each other and they're like, yeah, yeah, we'll get together soon. And maybe one of them texts and is like, hey, it was so great to see you. Can you do lunch tomorrow? No, I can't do lunch tomorrow. Can you do lunch on Thursday? No, I can't. And then they never get to that lunch, and so then they never get to any sort of continuation of that friendship. But that doesn't have to be a sad story. It can just be a life story, and that doesn't take away the impact that each other had on each other. Like I think Alex needed River to show her the world a little bit and to encourage her, and River needed some tough love. And I think River is going to make better choices, even though she didn't like hearing what she heard from Alex.
I feel like I could relate. One of my best friends when I was growing up, we had a falling out over my wedding because it was a destination wedding, and he's still a big part of my life. And then when my mom passed away, he showed up at the funeral, and I thought it would rekindle things. Like we would text, and every now and then we texted for like a little while, and I often think like, oh, I should reach out to him and text him, and just like I have 3 kids now, life is busy, and I often think to myself that friendship is never going to pick up where it was. And I'm probably never going to get around to sending that text message. And it's not because of any ill will or not because I'm a bad friend. It's just that relationship and that friendship got to me to where I am at. And now I can be the friend that I am to other people, right? Like,
100. And that's why it was so important to me, because even in the development process, people were asking me, like, does it have to have so many time jumps? Because time jumps are so hard, and,
yeah.
Feeling the weight of that. But I think that we did a really good job of feeling still the weight of time organically in the 90-minute show, because that was another component. That's a real estate issue as writing a musical.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want it to be a 2-act. I wanted it to be a 90-minute musical. But I think my older lens on life and perspective is that you need to feel how the gravity of time affects your memories of these relationships. I want you to feel the giddy puppy love of Gray and Charlie, that flirtation and everything. But I think, but over time, that shifts, and how I think that Charlie doesn't go to um, that concert because he has no longer needs to say yes to everything that Gray needs
I
or
love that. Yeah, I love that Charlie was
Hmm.
the reason they didn't go. Like he was the one
and
who's like, I'm in a different place. Before I needed your validation. I wanted Mr. Popularity so bad. And now I felt like he had overcome Mr. Popularity. And Gray was more popular than he was back when the story first began. But Charlie felt bigger than even that, which I feel like is such a strong feeling for Charlie, right?
it's so it moves me so much. I love all of them, and I think about the line that Charlie says in when he's during Popularity Reprise, when he's like, calling Gray because Gray's not there at the dinner. He's like, I can, and he says, I can make more excuses. I don't mind. He's willing
Yeah.
to put aside his own confusion with his sexuality, because I mean, there's two guys who are trying to figure out what just happened, both in this
Yeah.
friendship and in their sexuality, and all of this. And he's willing to put all of that away to make Gray feel better. And so then at the very end, he's like, I think he knows Gray is going through some stuff, but he can't just drop everything for him. And that doesn't have to be, it's not sad, it's not bad, it's not any of those things. And that's kind of like why I say the things that I say in Outgrowing, because I want all of the songs in some capacity also to feel like they can be echoes of what's happening in other stories too.
Yeah.
Outgrowing can be applied to kind of a theme of all the characters. That was a lot. I'm just diving into the details.
No, I was in. I was like right there with you with Charlie, and I was saying the same stuff. So I'm right there. Love it.
Yeah.
So the decision, like you talked about, to have them not all make it, do you feel like in the end, all of them have outgrown each other? Or do you feel like they've moved in a different direction with the fork in the road?
I think they're able to cleanse themselves of the regret or the fear or the sadness of these people not necessarily being a part of their lives in the way that they began. I think that the show kind of ends where it began, in that reflectory state of I'm thinking about this person and I don't know what to do about it, and I think Peter needed to hear that he's not a bad person, and that he can, and that his relationship and who he in that relationship doesn't need to be something that he can't think of. I think sometimes Peter runs away from the thought of something,
Yeah.
and he says that in his conversation with Charlie. He's like, I'm actively trying to close that chapter with Sam. He's trying to like act as if it's not a part of him. But I think the best thing you can do is accept and integrate all of the pieces that made you who you are.
I really loved that line, actively trying to close the chapter. Like that really stood out to me because I do feel like people will be like, "Oh, I closed that chapter. It's
Mm.
gone." But there's such a big difference between that and saying, "No, I'm actively trying." Like it's an everyday thing that I'm closing the chapter. I'm closing you kind of have to say it a bunch of times before it's real, right? Like,
Yeah.
so was that intentional to say I'm actively closing that chapter?
I think that might have been. I think the line. I would have to go back to the script, but I think the line might have been a little bit of me and a little bit of Antonio, kind of finding that exact phrase.
Wow.
But I, and then I think what's interesting then is that River is the one to call him out that he's still on his healing journey, even though she's full
Yeah.
of issues as well.
That was
Like,
funny, yeah.
so funny how we all kind of are doling out advice when we also really need advice. But I think that's very
Say that all
human.
the time, yeah. So
Yeah.
what's next? What's the goal? You said you have a million different ideas in your head, but what's like the goal, ultimate goal, focused on the next step in your journey within pieces?
Well, we're heading to London next week. I don't know when this is going live, but we're going. We're live right now.
Yeah,
Everybody,
yeah,
Surprise.
yeah.
We're going to London. We're going to perform a couple songs at this West End Live event that they have there, which is like a Coachella for London theater. And then there's some really exciting things that we have in the works. Yeah.
Sounds like stuff is close, but you can't release it yet.
Yeah, stuff's close, but I can't
Yeah,
release it
that's
yet.
good.
Yeah.
Was it close before it took off and some of the popularity has now expedited things?
It is really hard to make theater and to get theater anywhere. It's a very glacial
Yeah.
process. And even having the fan base and the momentum that we have, it still can be an uphill climb, surprisingly.
I love that you said
Um,
that. I think so many people think it's so easy. And I constantly tell our show, like, it's so hard. I don't think anyone realizes how hard it is. Even when you think you have something, it's still so hard.
yeah, yeah, it really is because it's a multi-year, almost multi-decade process for some
Yeah.
shows and for some people. And and I'm not the whole team that we have, and we're a small team still. We all believe in the show's impact beyond impact in different stages and different steps. Like we have big dreams, and we think that the show can really live in different kind of spaces. And I've been very vocal about that. Like I think there's a whole life that it can have beyond stage, and this live capture was even sort of like a proof of concept of that. That it can live in a digital filmic space and all of those things. So
People are like,
yeah,
it's new. And you're like, yeah, well, it's like a decade old.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, it is new, but like, cool.
yeah.
Like, but it's how anything, like a new song, a new artist, a new anything. And it's just like, you don't understand the iceberg behind the surface that got me to here. And you're doing it. So congrats. Congrats on all
Thank
of your
you.
success.
Thank you, thank you. I'm so appreciative, and I'm excited to continue to share it all with y'all.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, I've been following along for years, so my entire family is watching to see what will happen next.
I can't wait, and we'll have to do collabs more often with these
Yes, for
things.
sure.
I was gonna say if there's anything we can do, like do other interviews, if you want to do something after the London show, if you want to connect us with some of the actors or actresses and tell their story from their perspective, we could do only like a Sam podcast and just character drive, and only a Peter podcast and just character, whatever you need. You have people that are here to support you and whatever your
Yeah.
journey is.
I love that. I love that. We'll do whatever we can. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have Anna send over some ideas, and you just let us know what you have time for or who you can connect us with or whatever.
Sounds great.
We appreciate you, so thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. It was so nice to finally get to talk to you.
So
Yeah.
nice to be here. Take care. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.